Today's scripture usually creates a stir. There are certain texts that are pretty straightforward in meaning for us. Jesus calls his disciples. He eats with a tax collector. Love your neighbor. Pretty straightforward for us. But what we have today is a Yabit text. I don't know if you've heard that or not. Not necessarily a theological term, but it's a Yabit text nonetheless. It's not so straightforward for us. Martha is busy, and she's distracted by her tasks. She has welcomed Jesus into her home, and she's obliged to show him hospitality according to their culture, to take care of the issues that a host or hostess faces. Can I get you something to drink? Would you like something to eat? Are you hungry? Have you heard those in your household or in places that you've been and visited before? She had things to do. Bless you. She had things to do. And so here she is, in there in the kitchen trying to do all of these things. And here is her sister Mary. No help at all. Sitting there on the floor listening to this guest that is in the house. She's just listening. And Martha is a bit ticked off by this. She can kind of understand that. And she doesn't say, Mary, get in here and help. I know sisters and all of those things that sometimes, as Pat mentioned, sisters kind of do things differently. And this is certainly a case of them doing something differently. Martha's angry, and so she just thinks if she says, maybe, could you get in here and help me, that her sister might dig in even deeper. Have you ever had a sibling, when you told them to do something, they didn't quite actually do what you asked them to do, dug in a little further, and she makes an appeal, Martha does, to Jesus instead of her sister. Have you had those siblings try to tell you what to do? How did that work out for you? And how did it work out for them is another question to do. Martha makes an end-around play in this situation. Lord, you do not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself. Tell her then to help me. Tell her to get in here and help. That's what she wanted. But Jesus thought differently. The task we face here in this space are tasks that are given for all of us to do. To be a disciple, to sit at the feet of Jesus and learn Jesus' ways for our world. But also to fix food, muffins, or bring donuts, to offer thanks and praise and provide for the church's mission. The main thing, I think, is that as people of faith, we have to respond to that call to get in here and help, to do the work of the church and then get out there and help. Because you'll be reminded that this is not the church. This is the building this church meets in. You all are the church that goes out into the world and helps. That's what we are called to do the work of the church and then get out there and help. Have you ever had a task before you that was to be done with others, and when the time came to do that task, you were the only one who showed up? You ever had that one? I mean, it hasn't happened here at First Christian Church, I'm sure. But it can be so frustrating, I hear. There's those school group projects that we can probably all remember. You know, those projects we were assigned to do with other people. And we showed up and we did our work, and there were some others that kind of helped, and then there were others that maybe didn't even show up, and then they wanted to get credit for the whole thing when it all finished up. Those are very frustrating things to happen. Ones who did nothing, and somebody that thought their work was more important than anything else in the thing. How would you succeed is the question in all that. Martha's point of view here is that Jesus is here. Yes, he is here, but there is so much work to do. So much to do. Mary's point of view is there's work to be done, yeah, but Jesus is here. It's part of our Yabit that text, Jesus is in the house. Tennis star Serena Williams once told a reporter what it had been like growing up in the shadow of her sister Venus, who was the first to show promise on the tennis court. Serena said that she once told Venus, as they faced each other as opponents at a tennis match, she told Venus, "We'll be sisters later." The two learned how to turn their status as sisters on and off so that they could be rivals on the court but also take care of each other otherwise. What is it that you plan to do, Martha, is the question. She might say, "Oh, I'm planning and I need to straighten up the house. I need to welcome Jesus, to prepare a meal for him. This is my duty after all. Anything less than that would be a shame on my family." And what is it that you plan to do, Mary? "Sit at the Lord's feet," Mary says, "and listen to what he is teaching. I have just one wild and precious life, so I am going to use it to soak up the word of the Lord," the story tells us. So one's a worker and one's a shirker. Have a sibling like that you can relate to in all of this? If you don't understand how a woman could love both her sister dearly and want to wring her neck at the same time, then you are probably an only child, said Linda Sunshine. The 20-80 rule is in full effect in most organizations and in most churches and in our scripture today. It states that in most organizations, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Think about the jobs you've had. Have you been able to put that 80-20 rule into work? For the most, isn't that about right, how that goes? Should work out about the same if you're a worker or if you're a boss. Martha is thinking she is a 20%er here. Mary, for her, is in the 80th percentile. Think about the jobs you've had. Isn't that about right? Isn't there people that do the work and then people who really don't kind of do the work? But Jesus doesn't admonish Mary, he lifts her up. He points out that her being attentive to his words is important right then. She was taking care of important stuff. Jesus understood a different context than Martha did. It was one of those things that he was headed toward Jerusalem. And he was aware of what was going to happen there. And he was telling her what life is about. We are focusing in this Lenten season on being busy. But not being so busy that we fail to reconnect with an unhurried God. This is the point of view Jesus has for Mary. In a culture that required her to get in there and help, Mary is lifted up because she assumes a new role. She does. She assumes this new role. She is taking on the role of a disciple. She comes out of the kitchen and sits at the feet of Jesus and takes on the role of discipleship. In a world where disciples and teachers are male in that point in time, Mary breaks in, and Mary is accepted when she breaks into that world. Martha is busy, for sure, because there's a whole lot to be done. It was expected, and it was demanded of her as a host. Mary knew those expectations also, but chose a different way. This story doesn't give us any more than this. This is what we have from this story. We don't know if Martha took a moment and sat down by Jesus' feet as well, or if she rolls her eyes and just goes back to what is expected of her by customs. Or how long Mary sits there, we don't know. We don't know that. Or she finally got up and helped. She finally got up and helped. We don't know. What we do know is that Jesus questioned Martha's distraction and affirmed Mary's connection and her discipleship. Have you ever been to a meal at someone's home where the host was so concerned that everything was perfect that they ruined the whole event? That they ruined the whole thing because they just couldn't let go of that needing to be perfect. There comes a time when every good party, when you just must let the dishes pile up, the coffee get cold, and the butter melt, so that everyone may simply sit down and enjoy each other. The truth is, there are many a Martha in most of our churches, and they are the heart of the church in most cases. They feel the church might fall apart without them, and they are probably right. I must point out here that these Marthas are both female and they're both female and male. These Marthas have too many times been left to do all of the work. So Martha's complaint is heard loudly by church servants who fall into this category. It's time to begin worship. Yeah, but there's a fellowship dinner after church. It's time to begin worship. Yeah, but I haven't seen my friends in a week, and we need to catch up on all kinds of things. That bell rings, and we're supposed to come in here to do this thing, worship. Yeah, buts are all over the place. We're blessed with them. And a guy I know understands that as well, has a brother as well who is demanding, just like Mary and Martha were going back and forth. It says when the end of it comes, they sit down with each other and they celebrate life with each other. I've got all of this going on. Yeah, I do too, but I'm going to honor my time with you. The story in the end is not about Mary. The story is about about Martha. Mary is fine after Jesus defends her. The larger story is about the possibility of the liberation of Martha. Jesus shows care for her and proposes that her busyness and distractions are a hindrance to her own discipleship. And this mission to bring others to God's greater care. To call others to do the work of the Lord so they can call others to do the work of the Lord. That's what it's about. In all of this time that they spend together, Jesus might have just called out to Martha, "Get in here and help." And I wonder if she did. Would you pray with me? Gracious God, in all of the time we spent and all of the yeah-buts we have, help us to understand your care and love. That in all of this, you call us to do greater work. You call us to reach out to each other. And as we do that, we realize these lives of ours are busy. But we seek to plug in more to an unhurried God this season. That we might truly translate your mission of love to ourselves and be able to translate that as an agent of change for others. We ask this in Christ. Amen.